Hello, and welcome to another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Craig Anderson.
I'm Chris Costa.
How you doing, Chris?
Good, Craig. How are you?
Good. So what did you want to cover today?
Well, I thought it would be a good idea to discuss the process that happens when someone's finalizing a decision to purchase EPMS.
Oh, that's a good subject. There's a lot that goes on. Where do you want to start?
Well, why don't we start where someone's made the decision to buy Enterprise. They know what modules they want, and they've got all the licensing issues worked out. So they're ready to go.
So they've been working with the salesperson?
Yes.
Okay. So they have come to the final decisions of what modules they want to purchase, how many user licenses they want, and whether they need any multi-plant or multi-company licensing.
Sure.
And maybe any interfaces. Also would be included in that are some services. So what happens is the salesman works all that out with them and comes up with basically a final quote structure. Then we have a tool that creates a formal contract agreement. Also included in that contract agreement will be any pre-agreed upon payment terms or payment structures, if you will. So we create that contract electronically, and we then send it to them via an email. It's basically a PDF that's done through EcoSign, which is an Adobe product. The receiver, who is the person identified as the signer, would then open that contract up and can sign it electronically. He or she can sign it. Once they do that, the system then sends them a copy of it signed with an electronic certificate verifying the signature. It sends us a copy signed with the certificate as well, and it also stores it in the Eco Products system, so we can actually archive it for later access if we need to.
Okay.
So once that contract is signed, then we go to the next step.
Okay, and what would happen once the contract was signed? What is the next step?
Well, typically the next step at that point is we would then create the invoices reflecting the modules licensing and any multi-plant licensing and possibly any interfaces and their support for those items in one invoice. We would then also create an invoice if they are pre-purchasing any services. So a customer would typically end up with two invoices, one for the product and licensing and support, and then one for services. And those will both have different payment terms.
Okay.
Prepaid services get a discount, but that requires full payment up front, whereas the module licenses may have different terms on that.
Sure.
So we then deliver those invoices to them.
Okay. Now, once the invoice is received by the customer and then paid, when they send the deposit in, what would happen at that point?
Okay, well, so let's assume that one of the payment terms is a deposit initially. Once we receive that deposit and process it, we then go in and close out the sale. That then takes all that customer's information and makes them a formal customer and exposes them in our support system. So you guys now have access and visibility to that customer. We then go in and create all the different incidents related to an implementation, like an implementation incident, which we use to track basically the timeline of a project and any project management sort of topics. We create an incident for software delivery, where we would deliver our support, would then deliver the software to the client.
Right.
We create an incident for all the prepaid services. So if they bought, let's say, 25 hours of WebEx, they would have an incident in there that says they own 25 hours of WebEx. And then as they work with the implementers and trainers and so forth, those implementers and trainers will deduct from that time.
Okay, perfect. Now, how does the implementation get started? How does the customer know what's to be expected of them?
Well, again, the other part of the process, when we create those incidents, we would then sign the project managers.
Okay.
If it's just our core package, which doesn't include our accounting modules, they will be assigned one project manager.
Right.
That project manager will take on all the different responsibilities of guiding that customer through the whole process. We have an implementation guide that is delivered to them that will help walk them through the various steps. That project manager also may conduct some of the training involved, or he or she may assign another trainer to that customer for different aspects of the system training.
Okay.
When the project manager is assigned, we will schedule with them initially a meet and greet call just to kind of introduce each other to each other.
Right.
And we would then, during that time frame, schedule a demo on our support site. We have a customer web portal that customers can log into 24/7, get access to various bits of information, knowledge, topics, and so forth, and also submit incidents.
Okay.
So they'll get a demo on that. That takes usually about 45 minutes or so. That's a free demo. We also then schedule a free implementation guide. So that guide that I just talked about that you'll be delivered, we'll actually schedule a demo to go through that and talk about all the different steps and how they may uniquely apply to your particular project.
Okay, perfect. Now, does EPMS handle the software delivery, the installation, things like that?
What we do as part of the service and support plan coverage, we will go through the initial install of the software on the customer's server. But they have to have the server in place. It has to be on their network, and all workstations have to be able to connect to it. They also have to have all the appropriate operation OS files available that may be required.
Right.
We then go through the initial install. They also have to have SQL in place that they purchase and set SQL up, the appropriate version for our version of software. And we then install the blank database, and once we've installed our software in the blank database, we connect it to, so they're communicating. And we go through that part, and then all your training can start. We can then start working on building your database with you.
Okay, sure.
We also do the first upgrade,
Okay.
but it is actually the responsibility of the customer. Once we've taught them how to do the initial install and how to perform an upgrade, it's actually the responsibility of the customer or their IT person to handle all upgrades going forward.
Okay, makes
That's
sense.
not to say we're not there for technical support, but we just don't physically do it on all workstations and
Okay.
so forth.
And about how long does the implementation generally take?
Well, that's a tough question to answer because that has a lot of variables in
Sure.
it. Some of the biggest variables are the resource and time availability on the customer side. Our methodology approach to an implementation is to try to make the customer as self-sufficient and as knowledgeable about the intricacies of the system so they're able to take care of a lot of the ongoing maintenance of the system without necessarily having to get us involved. And we
Right.
do that through the training. And part of the training is, for example, we'll show you how to set up your different cost centers. And we will then give you basically homework.
Yeah.
And the customer will have to go through and install, or not install, but configure the rest of their cost centers and processes. So as far as how long it takes, it really comes down to how much time the individual or individuals on the customer side can apply to those various tasks.
Right.
Typically, an implementation will go anywhere from, if it's just a few modules, it could only be 30 days. If it's a whole system including accounting, it could go anywhere to 90 days or 120 days, depending on, again, the resource applied.
Okay.
I would say a good average is 4 to 6 months
Right.
to get everything done properly. The key is not to do anything in haste, because if you make decisions in haste, you'll probably have to go back and revisit it with our assistance,
Sure.
which adds more cost and time to the project.
Okay,
Okay?
makes sense. Well, I think that covered it pretty well for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
So again, once the project manager is assigned to the implementation to your company, he or she will walk you through this process from start to finish, and they're available to raise any issues. But you also, in that time frame, you'll be working with many other members of our team.
Okay,
Yeah.
makes sense.
So does
good
that
to know.
answer everything?
It does.
All right, great.
Yes, very good.
Well, this was another episode of EPMS Tech Talk. I'm Craig Anderson.
And I'm Chris Costa.
Thanks for watching, and be sure to watch for more to come. Thank you.